My story: married almost 28 years. Came back from Iraq almost 2 years ago. Bronze Star, Combat Action Badge. I was damn proud to have served in combat as one of the old guys. Kept the marriage fires going the entire time I was there. Came home and it was like a honeymoon. Our marriage could not have been better. Good communication, intimacy, etc. Then Facebook. Our agreement was that anyone of the opposite gender who friend requested us had to meet with the OS approval. 3 days before my birthday, a man friend requested my wife. No problem. He had a family, his father was a minister, and he was involved in his church. I come home from work on a Friday, which also happens to be my birthday. My wife and I have plans for the night, but I am not feeling well. My 2 sons in their 20s are there to greet me and wish me a happy birthday like they do every year. Hugs. Then my wife comes up to me, kisses me, and says, "Hey, you are burning up." I am sick and end up going to bed. Keep in mind that my wife is perky, excited to see me, and happy. The next morning we were going to buy an antique hutch for our business, but I am still not feeling well. My wife gives me the cold shoulder and tells me to go by myself. This is entirely out of character for her. We usually do a lot of things together, and she was excited about the purchase, but she blew it off. I tell her I will go by myself, and as I am driving to buy the antique, I end up driving to the hospital instead. They think I have Rocky Mountain spotted fever. The doctor was correct, and they want to admit me. I call my wife, and she is concerned about the car and how I will get it home. What the hell? She does not seem to care that I am sick, which is not like my normally caring wife. Instead, I am sent home with a treatment of pills for the next month or so. I go to bed, and my wife, who is usually caring, is home but absent the entire weekend while I am lying in bed sick. My wife has changed almost overnight. From that weekend forward, for over a month, my wife hardly talks to me. She is always on her computer or texting on her phone. After a few weeks, she breaks down and says she needs me in her life. I tell her that I have not changed, but she has. The breakdown only lasts a few minutes, but over a month later, my wife and I decide to use my nephew's hot tub for a quiet night together. My nephew moved and his house is for sale, but we have permission to use his hot tub until the house is sold. It is a Friday night around 9 p.m., and my wife decides to take a bath before going to the hot tub. I go downstairs and my computer is closed, but hers is open. I decide to check the news, emails, etc. I have never checked my wife's computer before, but I got the shock of my life. She was still logged on and I did not know her password. Her email was opened and she was pleading with this man not to break up with her. She was saying she loves him, cares for him, and has emotions for him. There is wicked dirty talk. This was the Facebook friend that I had said was okay. I confront my wife and she blows it off as flirting. I go over the emails and tell her that it is not flirting, that she is saying she loves this man. She talks me into going to the hot tub, and we make love. It is a 3-day weekend, and I decide not to talk to her at all. I am mad and feel used. I go to work on Tuesday, and I am given a gift from God. I can't do this stuff now, but I hack and figure everything out about her accounts. I get all kinds of information. It is like I am the MIT nerd from hell. Even on a government computer, which would normally not give me access, I am able to obtain everything I need. I confront my wife and all she does is lie, lie, lie. I know just about everything. And she continues to lie until I show her proof. Then she confesses. This pattern repeats for every issue I question her about. She lies, I show evidence, she confesses. I have to constantly drag the truth out of her. She never confesses anything unless I bring it up first. I have gone to counseling, but she refuses to join me. We talk every day and she shows remorse, and I forgive her. We were making progress, but I am still keeping track of her computer usage. She knows this. We had a good 9 months, but then the red flags started appearing again. I could write a book about all the signs that are present once again. Recently, my youngest son, who is 25 years old, brought up the issue that his mother is acting strangely, and he suspects she may be cheating. My youngest son and my wife have always been close, so for him to come to me with this is concerning. I tell him that I am already aware of the situation and I share with him about the past, but I choose not to confront her about it. The signs started appearing again around April. Just a few moments ago, my youngest son called me and informed me that he had placed a GPS tracking device on his mother's car, which is legally my car. He activated it last night on his car, and the program is fantastic, as I have been able to track his movements all day while I'm working in another city. I recently took a new job in another city and only come home on weekends. I will continue to do this until we buy a second house. Signs that my wife may be cheating include her becoming emotionally and physically distant around April, always keeping her cell phone on and responding quickly to calls and texts, but recently she has stopped paying attention to her phone. This is what tipped my son off to her changed behavior. She even called my two sons and told them not to bother her because she was going shopping in the evening. However, my wife never shops in the evening and has even gone as far as doing her hair before going out. She usually puts her hair back and wears a cap when shopping, but not this time. She also turned off her phone, which is something she never does. She has been gone for over 6 hours on several occasions, not answering her phone during that time, and then calling me around 11 p.m. to say she was out shopping. A few weeks ago, she was supposed to pick up our oldest son who has special needs, but she called him and said she would be late and not to bother her. He ended up walking home through a bad part of town and called me to tell me the story. My wife has always been there for our son, so this behavior is concerning. Her excuse to me was that she was out shopping, but when she went to pick up our son, he wasn't there. She said she had just left the mall at 10:45 p.m., even though the mall closes at 9:30 p.m., and it only takes 5 minutes to get to where our son was. She claimed she was waiting for him, but what was she really doing? She said she was shopping for Christmas lights for our business, which she does every year, but this time she went during the day and bought cheap lights. I told her over the weekend that Kmart has the best deals on lights, but she spent 6 hours shopping for them. I am keeping track of all of this. That Kmart has the lights she is looking for, and she looks at me and says, "Don't you remember? We bought lights earlier in the year when you took me to an army conference." I already knew that, but again, I'm not confronting her. My youngest son brought up the fact that mom is not answering the phone when she has gone shopping for 6 hours, and he said the story of the Christmas lights was lame, as he knows her patterns. My wife rarely sleeps with me when I come home on the weekends. She has always been active, but the few times we had bonded during the last month, she was like an animal. Last week, she grabbed my penis and said, "Give me that thing while it is big and hard." She has never done that before. She is not a prude, but she has never done this before. Her weight is down, same as last year when she did this. She is not eating and is down to a size 0. My wife is normally a size 2. She is not anorexic, but will be if she loses more weight. She claims stress and that she wants to look better. She is looking gaunt like last year. She told me on a recent phone call that she is running because she says she has all this energy. My wife never ran in her life and she is 50 years old. When I am home, she is tired and goes to bed early, saying she has no energy. When I am home on the weekends, she stays busy with chores around the home. My wife rarely did housework on the weekends and always spent time with me. Now, I am not home during the week to clean up after myself. So again, what the hell? Several weeks ago, I heard a muffled cell phone ringing in the room where I was sitting. Even my dog started to bark. My phone was in my shirt pocket, and my wife's phone was next to me. And it was not either of those phones. I mentioned it to my wife, who shortly after I heard a cell phone ring a second time, came down from upstairs looking alarmed and said, "Oh, it was my son's phone ringing upstairs." I pretended not to pay much attention to it. I went outside and called my son, who happened to have his phone on him, miles away. She brought it up the next day, once in the morning and once in the evening, that I heard my son's phone. What the hell? I did not bring up the issue and pretended to blow it off by saying, "Yeah, it must have been his phone." His phone rings differently anyway than what I heard. I believe she is smarter this time and has a second untraceable phone. I wish I would have torn the room apart, as I now believe it was stuffed down one of the cushions. Thanksgiving, I have to order from Cracker Barrel. She always cooked a big meal. I have to order food for my wife, my 2 sons, and myself. She will not even order the food, and I am in another city right now. Her computer broke in July, smashed on the floor. She blamed it on the dogs. She was watching her brother's house an hour away, while he, his wife, and 5 kids spent a month in Europe. She insisted that I buy her a new laptop right away, even though she could use her brother's computer. I had to get overnight delivery. There is no software tracking on her new computer, and I just let it go. One agreement we had was that she was supposed to keep all her history. She has her new computer set up, where the history is not kept at all. She does not call me. In the past, she would call me several times a day. If I do not call, there is nothing. When I do, she is short with me. I called her recently, and my youngest son was there. I was excited that I will be getting another promotion in less than a year. I was elated, as I already got a big promotion when I transferred here. And now I am being told that I will be promoted once I pass an exam in April. My son told me that he was there, and my wife just kept rolling her eyes and had me on speakerphone and was not interested. My son told me that Mom always gave me her undivided attention when I called, but this time she couldn't have cared less. I remember that call when I hung up the phone. I was angry, because I could tell that she didn't care. There is more, but this post is already too long. I am doing a 180, chilling, waiting for her to slip up. I am not the emotional wreck I was last year. I will track her car, and my son will track her as well. We have several plans in place once we find out that she is not where she says she was or is. I think she is seeing someone in a nearby town. My wife is miserable, not her happy, loving, perky self. I want something tangible. I want hard evidence to avoid any shadow of me being paranoid or irrational. I want this for myself. If the GPS shows that she is at X, and she tells me that she's at Y, that's all I need. Once I have the evidence, I will not tell her about it. I will simply file for divorce. She does not deserve an explanation. My sons do, she does not. Unfortunately, our assets will be divided 50-50. My attorney believes that I may even end up paying alimony. It depends on the judge, and we do not get to decide who the judge is. She may even get a portion of my military and civilian retirement. My attorney is certain that she will get it. It is not legal to hide assets, and currently, all of our assets are shared. I have been advised to be transparent with our finances, as it will not look good in court if I show any type of misconduct. Marital misconduct does not affect how the courts in our state divide our assets, but it can have an impact on alimony. So, the cleaner I am, the better off I could be. There are no promises. Financially, I will take a big hit at the beginning, but in the long run, I will be okay. I am unsure of how my wife will fare. Her brother is very wealthy, and they were very close until about a month ago. I can't figure out why, but their relationship is odd right now. I think he may have found out about something and has distanced himself from her. He left the ministry a few years ago after getting burned out, and he is quite perceptive. Recently, he came into a large sum of money after his baby daughter died earlier this year, and they were awarded millions for medical malpractice. In the long run, he will take care of her no matter what she has done. A week later, my youngest son installed a cheap GPS unit on the car my wife drives. He suspected she was having an affair, as did I. I live in another city during the week and come home on weekends. My youngest son had to replace his radiator and came to our home on Tuesday, November 29th to work on it. My wife left home around 4 p.m., and my son called me at work and told me that she was going shopping, but it didn't make sense. So we both monitored her movements on our computers. She quickly headed in a direction she had never gone before. In about half an hour, she was at the work site of the man I suspected she was cheating with. Facebook tells you a lot about people. She was there for about half an hour and then drove off to a small Amish church in the country. I called her and told her about my day, and she said she was out. I asked her where she was shopping, and she told me she was at Walmart, which was about 30 miles from where her GPS had her located. I told her I loved her, and she said she loved me, and we hung up. I was shaking. She lied, no surprise, but if she had told me she was buying special dog food, I would have believed her. because I, not her, buy dog food at an Amish store in that area. I called my son. He said, "Dad, we got her." I was gonna let this go on until the weekend, but I had enough evidence. I told my son I was gonna call her. I am 3 hours away, so I called her and confronted her. She went ballistic, stating, "Why am I accusing her of cheating when she is at Walmart?" I told her where she was and who was in the car with her. That she cursed me out and said she will not stand for this and is going to leave Walmart and go home. She hung up. I called her back, and to my surprise, her phone came right on, and my wife and her boyfriend did not know it. I heard everything. My wife said, "How does he know I'm at your place? How does he know where I am and who I am with?" It was sweet. I was on my way home, and my wife did not know it. She called me several times and berated me for accusing her of cheating. After many hang-ups, she finally admitted to meeting with the guy. I called several friends and her older brother on my way home, and they talked me out of doing something I would regret or end up in jail for doing. Fortunately, I had a 3-hour drive to sort things out. When I arrived home, my wife was shocked, and I called my 2 boys to be with me, ages 27 and 25. I told them the whole story, and my youngest son acted like he knew nothing. The 3 of us talked very firmly to my wife for about 2 hours. Yes, they yelled at their mother. Her initial reaction was that she did nothing. The boys were the best at knocking her defenses down, and I confronted every lie. It was great teamwork without having practiced. My boys yelled at their mother and asked her, "What did Dad do to deserve this?" My wife said, "Your dad did nothing. I am to blame. I left and now I'm back in the city where I work and can't sleep." I told her I'm filing for divorce and will sell the house. I contacted her boyfriend and his wife. I contacted some of my wife's family. I'm gonna let her entire family know. I will be contacting the boyfriend's pastor, as the boyfriend says he is a true follower of Jesus. I am ordained and served as a pastor and chaplain for many years, clinically trained, etc. But this is not the time to stay professional. Let the light shine on the stinking vampires and see them scurry. My wife was my soulmate and the joy of my life. We were married for 28 years. We have an antique business, and I am a professional counselor and a part-time minister, mainly doing consulting work for churches. She had an emotional affair in April and May last year. It was beyond what was acceptable, and she did a similar thing 12 years ago with 3 guys online. She killed something inside me last year. I survived a combat tour in Iraq, and even war was not as rough as what I went through last year. I forgave her, but I have not trusted her since. Not an ounce of trust. She can be very vivacious, charming, and funny. She was a good mother to our boys. I know what folks will say here, but my boys adored their mother. That is why I made sure the boys were with me last night when I came home. I can almost see inside my wife's head, and I knew when she was getting ready to cheat. She kept looking at this guy's page on Facebook over and over again. Our agreement was to be transparent. If she felt tempted, she agreed that she would say something to me, share passwords, etc. Slowly over time, she changed her passwords. She would tell me, but she did not tell me what they were. I suppose if I asked, she would have given them to me, but the agreement was to share without asking. I am in counseling for war trauma and my marriage issues. My counselor is a great clinician, and he predicted that my wife would do it again, and he never met my wife. He told me, "Counselor, what is your wife doing to fix things?" I said nothing. She does not go for counseling, and she acts like everything is normal, even though my guts were ripped out of me and I am still hurting. He said my wife is needy and nothing I do can fill it. He says we all have unmet needs, and we make choices on how to get those needs met, or to live with unmet needs. He said no one can meet all the needs of their spouses. How we live with those unmet needs shows the character of a person. I have an attorney who I am paying, and I have great support from friends. They have all been here or have worked professionally with these issues. My attorney and others know my wife. They would also like to see us work things out, though they support any decision I make. I am keeping my options open. My wife told me that they just kissed, nothing more. I'm in investigation mode big time. I am going to order a blacklight flashlight. I found used wipes and paper towels that were stuffed between the seats. My wife is a clean freak with her car. Also, she normally just has a thin blanket spread out in the back of the SUV over the carpet to protect the car when we put antiques in the back. I found that there was the normal blanket and on top of that, a sleeping bag and a thick quilt spread out like a bed. I told my wife that it was a love nest. She told me that it was put there for our dog when she transported him to her brother's house in August. We crate our dog when we transport him in the car. There is padding in the crate. There is no need to add 2 more thick layers of padding under the crate. Additionally, the sleeping bag and the thick quilt were not in the car the weekend prior to this. We went out and bought some antiques, and I was looking for extra padding, and there was just the one blanket in the back. My boys, ages 25 and 27, do not want me to divorce her. I am trying to honor their wishes at this time. I am paying an attorney and started the process, but that is all on hold. I'm trying to see if there is any other evidence so I can present it to the boys. My wife called me today and said our youngest son acted odd when he was visiting with her on Monday. He did not call her yesterday. She says she fears losing him. After this past weekend, I did most things wrong. I told her I would be willing to work things out, that I loved her, etc. I was drunk almost the entire weekend and was just numb and in shock and was not in my right mind. The whole thing has hit me like a ton of bricks when I drove back to the city where I work on Sunday night. I believe it hit my youngest son on Monday. I think we are out of shock right now and are seeing things more clearly. Man, this sucks. There was no dog on these blankets. My wife transported the dog months ago in a crate. The crate has its own padding in it. She is using that as an explanation as to why there are big, thick blankets in the back of the SUV, and it just goes to show how lame it is. The crate is large, we have a golden retriever, and the crate has a solid plastic bottom with a pad in it. We rarely transport the dog. The last time was in August. My wife always has a thin blanket spread out in the back of the SUV, and if we have to put the back seats down to make more room for hauling stuff, my wife will make sure the blanket covers the entire back, including the additional space created by putting the seats down. I helped her with the crate. There was just the thin blanket, and there was no other additional padding needed. The weekend before the confrontation, we bought antiques, and I remembered that there was just the one blanket in the back because I needed extra padding to protect some things, and there weren't any other blankets in our SUV. This past weekend, after the confrontation, I saw that she added a thick sleeping bag. The kind that can be unzipped and used as a large blanket, and a thick quilt. These were spread out on top of the blanket that is normally in our SUV. They were spread out and folded neatly where they went up against the back seats. Just fold down the seats, unfold the blankets, and you have an instant bed. I know that my wife prepared a bed in our SUV to have fun. She denied it and says it was there when she transported the dog months ago. She has told me something more could have happened that night, but my phone call interrupted them. I called my wife and confronted her within a few minutes of them parking the vehicle in a church parking lot. I know the exact time. While they were driving to the church, I called my wife, not letting her know yet that I knew where she was and with whom, and we talked about our day and exchanged I love yous. She said she was at Walmart 30 miles away from her location. They pulled into the church parking lot and were there for 5 minutes. I called her and confronted her. We talked for 4 minutes. I called her again exactly 2 minutes later and talked more, yelling and screaming at her. After she hung up, I called her right back and her phone answered. I heard her and her boyfriend talking for minutes as they were flying down the road. She dropped him off near his house and headed home. If they had gone full physical, it would have happened very fast. I still believe that they did not engage more that night, as they were only parked for 5 minutes. About half a week later, I wrote the novel of my life about what happened over the weekend and saved it. Long story short, she confessed to everything around 3 early Sunday morning. Full-blown affair. I'm gonna give it a chance, but I have all the paperwork done for a divorce. It was one hell of a weekend. My wife was being tested today for STDs and pregnancy. At age 50, she called her 3 brothers who are all pastors, one Baptist, one evangelical, and one Pentecostal, and told them what she did. This would be too long to explain, but I did nothing to deserve this. I was and am a great husband to her. She is one messed up person, and if she can't fix it, it is over. The fact that she called her brothers and told them what she did and that I had nothing to do with it spoke volumes to me. She also told our youngest son. He just sat and listened and walked out of the house, angry. I don't think I can ever trust her, and I'm trying to determine if I can live with that. My update, I know it is long, sorry. I came home Friday drunk. My wife kept insisting that she wanted me to come home. I did not want to come home. I am living several hours away during the work week. I'm not a nasty drunk, and when I got home, I did not unpack anything from my truck. I stopped at a store on my way home and bought a card that had a history of things on her birthday, candy that her grandmother used to give her, etc. When I got home, I asked her to go into our family room. I explained to her the significance of each gift, that on the day she was born, her parents had many high hopes for her. I took a picture of her father and handed it to her and said when he was dying 7 years ago, he pulled me aside and asked me to always take care of his daughter. I shared that her mother did the same thing prior to her death earlier this year. Her parents adored me, and I loved them. They were instrumental in our reconciliation 12 years ago when she did something similar. They knew their daughter. I told her that the only reason I came home was because of a promise I made to them, and I really do not want to be there. The night was just small talk. I went to bed at 1 a.m. and got up around 4 a.m. She got up around 9 a.m. I sat and just walked around the house all day, like a lost zombie puppy. I was getting more and more angry. I wanted to vent, but I kept my mouth shut. I was drinking and drunk. I kept checking the computer as I had access to our checkbook online. I could see when she met with the guy, as she used her debit card to get gas. Near his house, which is 20 miles away from our home and a place she never goes, I found out she went to the liquor store and bought alcohol. This was unusual for her. I also discovered that she bought a phone. I didn't say anything. I went out to a bar, but I couldn't stay. My younger son called me and told me not to do anything stupid. I went home and started drinking. I was listening to Tom Waits in our family room, which is something I never do. I was in a lot of pain. My wife came down to the family room and insisted that I go to bed with her around midnight on Saturday. We got into bed, but I didn't say anything about wanting to bond. She reached over and tapped me on the shoulder, saying goodnight, and then rolled over. I thought, what the hell? I lost it inside. I got up and said I couldn't sleep and told her I couldn't take it anymore. I told her that I needed to come home on the weekends and have fun, and her just walking around the house like a zombie wasn't enough. I told her I was leaving and would be back home after the new year. She said she didn't want me to leave, that this was my house too. I couldn't take it any further. I packed up the few things I had brought into our house and was ready to leave at 1 a.m. I had only gotten 3 hours of sleep in the past 2 days, and I was drunk. My wife stayed in bed and fell asleep. Truthfully, she was exhausted from not sleeping. I had no pity for her. As I was leaving the house, some Christians will understand this. There was something like a voice telling me to check the credit card, and then I remembered that we had won something and I found it. I honestly didn't know where my wife kept our account information, but like a robot, I was led, I think by God, to a drawer that I never go into. Under a stack of papers, I found all of our online account information. I got my computer out, and lo and behold, I found out she had a secret phone account. She had lied to me and my sons about this. No surprise, right? I went upstairs and woke up my older son, went into our bedroom, turned on the lights, and woke my wife up. I started throwing her clothes out of her closet and told her to leave because I knew about the phone. I was cursing. My wife was defiant and said she wouldn't leave. I disabled her car. She was angry. My son was about to call the police, but I told him to stay with me and witness what I was doing because I wouldn't harm his mother. I showed my wife all the actions I had taken for a divorce, and she was shocked. She fell to the floor, grabbed my leg, and begged me not to leave or divorce her. I told her to go downstairs and come clean. I started smashing pictures of the two of us that she had around the room. I started burning our wedding album, but my son took it from me. I handed my wife my wedding ring. My wife told me to sit down. I grabbed another bottle of alcohol and sat down. I told her that this was her last chance to come clean, or I would finish the divorce papers on Monday. She lost it and opened up like a floodgate, confessing everything. There is a lot more to write, as all of this went on for hours, but I have no doubt that she told me everything. I told her that if I ever found out that she left anything out or that the answers she gave me were wrong, there would be no discussion. I wasn't bluffing about the divorce, but I would give her one chance. Right now, she is having blood work done for STD and pregnancy, and I am 3 hours away. She claims she threw away the phone weeks ago and the trash has already been taken out. I checked, but she says she doesn't know the number. I also don't know my cell phone number unless I look it up, and I'm not sure how to do that. I need to know the account number, but she claims she never set up an account online. All I need to do is find the phone number and account number and see if there's a way to access the account. A few weeks later, my wife has been having memory issues, but that doesn't change the fact that she chose to cheat. Years ago, we bought a car in Florida and left it at her brother's house while we went on vacation with my parents. About a month later, my wife and son flew down and drove the car back up north. However, she has no memory of this. It's frustrating because I want her to tell me the whole truth, but she may not remember. I started the process for divorce, but it's currently on hold. She has agreed to transfer the house and cars to my name, but she hasn't agreed to a post-nuptial agreement. I'm in the process of handling all of these things, and it wasn't a threat. I have decided to try to reconcile, but I want to make it clear that I can still choose to divorce at any time. Her 3 brothers, who are all pastors, have been supportive and told me that they would understand if I divorced their sister. They don't want to lose me. I have also told them that if we do get divorced, they will eventually make up with their sister, and I will be history. This is my comment. Part 2. The final ending of this story will be coming soon. I am currently working on it and will update you as soon as it's ready. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications.